Just over a year since the Lib Dems suffered that catastrophic general election result, isn't it? And you here, one of many Lib Dems to lose your seat, and that came after crushing local election losses and the loss of all but one of your MEPs. We're asking, is there a way back for the Lib Dems? And Sam Macrory is reporting on it.
Our party will come back. Our party will win again.
Nick Clegg resigning as Liberal Democrat leader on the morning of May the 8th last year. He had just seen his party reduced to 8 MPs and hurled from government. But are the Lib Dems coming back, and can they really win again? Tim Farron, Clegg's successor, is, as ever, feeling buoyant.
There has to be somebody to lead the view that Britain is better off in the European Union, and we'll carry on with that fight. So our membership is almost double where it was a year or so ago. We've just had our best council election results for 8 years, made more net gains than anybody else. And of course the council by-elections every Thursday night are ticking over hugely and almost uniquely in our favour.
The next station is Newport Junction.
Yeah, I am feeling optimistic. Now, it has to be said that one of the qualities required of a Liberal is optimism, and I'm well known to have it in almost all circumstances. But nevertheless, I think that optimism in our present circumstances about the ability to grow is by no means irrational.
Paddy Ashdown's garden in Somerset was once part of a very Lib Dem corner of Britain. But his old Yeovil constituency, like virtually the entire southwest of England, is now in Conservative hands.
Your ability to change the big things in politics depends on your strength, and it will take us time to rebuild that back.
You've written about a hill not so far from here where you walked to the top and you used to be able to see all the land was Liberal Democrat.
Yes, right. Well, a biblical hill.
Do you now look down and feel like a bit of a stranger in a foreign land? Isn't it? No land is Liberal Democrat.
If I look out from Ham Hill today, I can't see anywhere that has not got a Liberal Democrat government at the local government level. All of those areas that were controlled by us parliamentary level are still in large measure controlled by us. And that base is there, it's intact, it's growing strongly. And what matters to me in politics isn't where you are, it's the direction you're travelling.
So I've climbed Ham Hill and the view from here is spectacular. But where Paddy Ashdown could only see Liberal Democrat land, today the constituencies you can see are all Conservative held. One person hoping to change that is Daisy Benson, the newly selected Lib Dem candidate for Yeovil.
I can't remember this excitement about people joining our party, the hopefulness. People are joining us from the Conservatives, from Labour, from the Green Party. Yeah, we were down last election, but we were down but not out. I think there's every chance that we can bounce back.
There's no Lib Dem MPs in the area anymore. You've been decimated at a local level and you've gone to some seats that you were in first, you're now in third. Why are you so upbeat?
I think if you're an optimist, you're most certain to be a Lib Dem supporter. And it's not really about the numbers, it's about whether or not what you're saying is resonating with people.
At the referendum, most of the southwest of England voted to leave the EU. So is pitching the Lib Dems as a passionately pro-European party the way to attract the voters? Polly Mackenzie, a former advisor to Nick Clegg, says being distinctive is now what matters.
Well, 48% of people voted to stay in the EU, and of course only 8 or 9% of people voted Liberal Democrat at the last election. We could do pretty well with 48% of the vote. The crucial thing for a party that has been so badly damaged at national level is to start to establish distinct positions that get attention and focus, and they have to be controversial. Otherwise, if you just say a bunch of tedious platitudes, no one's going to pay attention to you.
How do you think the Lib Dems can reconstruct? Can they be a national party, or do you just accept that they're relegated to the outer fringes and that's the way ahead?
It's possible that the Lib Dems can rebuild, just focusing on local campaigning to build a base, be the local champion, and slowly, incrementally build up to being a national force of politics again. I think one of the problems is that we lost that message of being the go-to local champion because we were foregrounding that much more controversial message about what was going on nationally, and people weren't ready for it, and they weren't sure if that was actually what they wanted.
The Lib Dems were also propped up by protest voters, most of whom deserted the party once they went into government. Are these the type of people the Lib Dems need to win back? Lib Dem blogger Mark Pack doesn't think so.
I think it would be dangerous for the Liberal Democrats to go down the course of simply trying to appeal to that sort of anti-politics vote again, because one of the things we discovered in the 2010 to 15 Parliament is you really can't hold on to such supporters if there is another hung Parliament. And so if the Lib Dems have a base of support that really only likes you as long as you're never in power, we're just going to end up repeating the 2010 to 2015 problem. It's much better for the Lib Dems to rebuild by building up a stronger core vote based on people who positively support our liberal outlook and our pro-European outlook.
So the rebuilding process is underway. How long might it take? Andrew Russell, a professor of politics at Manchester University, says Lib Dems should be braced for the long haul.
They're back to the grassroots campaigning, back to the focus leaflets, back to the community politics that they know well, and they can grow, but it's very gradual. In order to make a real breakthrough, they also need that national profile, and that's what's missing right now. They might be quite chipper about their chances of recovery, but they've got to take almost a geological timescale in order to think that they can be back to where they were.
So why are the Lib Dems feeling so optimistic?
The people who are still there are the evangelists, the true believers. They've stuck with the party through thin and thin, and you might have to encourage them to take a step back and look at reality outside of the bubble from which they reside.
To regain influence, and maybe power, perhaps the best route for the Lib Dems is to work again with other parties. And that's why Paddy Ashdown has unveiled plans for a political movement, called More United, to support progressive parliamentary candidates.
There is only one way that you can create a majority around the centre-left position in Britain, and that is by partnership politics, working with others, and by electoral reform.
So is there a point that the Lib Dems accept that it's better to unite with others, perhaps even lose the name to remain relevant in some form?
You can never lose the name because, you are what you are. But absolutely, I think there is only one way forward for sensible politics in Britain, and above all, the sensible politics of the left, and that is to be non-tribalist in our approach to politics. The Liberal Democrats have always been there, and it's time for others to come to the party.
Or perhaps it's time for the Liberal Democrats to become part of a new party altogether. Tim Farron is open-minded.
I'm determined that there should be a movement and that we should be at the heart of it. But our job is also to protect and promote the liberal heritage as well.
But would you accept being the last leader of the Liberal Democrats if it meant putting together this new progressive left-centre party?
Well, I mean, my sense is we shouldn't rule any options out when you get close to, going out of business as it appeared we would 14 months ago. Then people realise how much we are necessary. So the need for a liberal movement is absolutely essential.
That was Sam Macrory reporting. Vince, do you think Paddy Ashdown's idea of a progressive movement has any chance of success? I mean, you could end up funding non-Lib Dem candidates with that.
Well, there's a whole host of initiatives of that kind going on. There's something called Progressive Alliance, there's Compass, there's various others. I mean, I'm going around the country at the moment sharing platforms with people on other parties to try and achieve that objective. So there is a yearning, I think, not just within the party, but more generally to have some coherent opposition to the government. And I think the combination of the European referendum and the implosion that's happening in the Labour Party, I think has given a sense of urgency. Why I think the discussion you had there about the Long March, that's how we all thought of it. The Long March was going to come back through local government and slowly winning by-elections. I think the whole thing is now speeding up, and it may well be that our fortunes will revive much more dramatically than people thought. I've just come from a meeting of new members in Twickenham and Richmond. Dozens of them are signing up. And the first person I talked to was a former Conservative activist who'd left, disgust because of what's happened in the referendum campaign. And there are people from the other side too. I think what we do have to do, and Tim Farron put it very well, I think keeping an open mind, indeed talking to people in other parties. I think that kind of outward-looking approach is fundamental.